Okay, so today we're going to look at the Content Aware Tracing Pen Tool, and if we right click over here on the pen tool and you don't have the Content Aware Tracing tool available to you here, if you come up to Edit, and you must be in Photoshop 2021 for this, so if you come up to Edit and down to Preferences and then select Technology Previews, and you need to make sure you tick the Enable Content Aware Tracing tool and hit OK. But if you read this message here, it says changes will take effect the next time you start Photoshop. So when I hover over the tool as well, in the description it tells you below, you need, first of all, we need to restart Photoshop, and don't do a forced stop in if you're using a Mac. Definitely go to File and Close to close Photoshop properly, and when you restart Photoshop again it should appear in your Tools panel. But as well, down here it says that the tool also requires the graphics processor to be on, so if you go to Preferences and Performance, you need to turn on your graphics processor to be able to use this tool. So I'm just going to hit OK, and when you restart Photoshop, if you don't see it sitting here in when you right click on your pen tool, you just go to these three little dots down here and say Edit Toolbar, and if you scroll down to find your pen tools under P, there we go. If it's not in this list here, then it'll be sitting over at the right hand side, and you just literally pick it up and drag it and drop it into this area here and just say done. So then when you right click again, it should be available for you to use in the pen tool preferences. So to do a quick demonstration of this, if I had the pen tool and I wanted to draw around this pyramid, you can see there's a little asterisk next to my pen tip telling me that I'm going to start a new path. So I would have to come around and click and draw around this path just like that, and that is my path complete. I'm just going to undo that. If I choose the Content Aware Tracing tool, however, and I come over and I hover, just hover over the edge, you can see that I get a dashed line. And that dashed line is telling me where the path is going to be created. So then all I have to do is do a left click on there, and that's it, selection made. So with that selection made, this is called a path. If you've drawn it with the pen tool, it's called a path. And if we look at the Paths tab, and if your Paths tab's not available to you at the right hand side, if you just come up to Window and check Paths, then it will be available to you, and you come over to the path and you can see that it's created a path here for this pyramid. If I want to keep that as a separate path, then I'll just double click on the word path and save this as pyramid and hit OK. So that's now saved that path. If I then went on to do another selection and I hadn't saved that path, it would add this selection into that path, and we don't want to do that in a lot of cases. So that's how we create a path with this tool. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into my history and select this start image again so that we can start from scratch. So I'm down in my layers palette and I'm going to hit Ctrl and J to duplicate the layer. We're going to cut out the submarine, so I'm going to just zoom in so that you can see a little bit better what I'm doing, and I'm using the space bar to get my little hand tool to drag it around. So again, with the content aware tool selected, I am going to come over and hover over the edge, and you can see that it hasn't gone all the way around the submarine, so it's going to take a few clicks to select it to finish it off, but I'm quite happy with that. It's got the little propeller, so I'll left click and accept that part of the path. Then I'll come down and I'll hover around here, and it's got that right. Another left click, and the same, come round here, left click, and it's, if I hover here to try and complete the selection, it's struggling a little bit, and the reason it's struggling, if I zoom in, is because these little holes here are very near the edge. It hasn't got a definite edge to work from, so I want to try and get it to match these edges up, so I can just come around and hover around, and it's not going to manage to do it. You can see the little pink line appears, and it's struggling. So I'm going to get rid of this anchor point here, and you can see it's not going to do a good job. So I'm going to delete this anchor point. So I'm going to select my direct selection tool. If I right click on that, you've got the path selection or the direct selection. I want to use the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to click and drag an area over that anchor point and hit my delete key. Or it might be backspace on a Mac. So now I've deleted that, and I hit P to go back to the pen tool. It will select my content aware tool again, and I'm just going to come and hover, and you can see it's still making a mistake. That's not where I wanted, so I'll try a hover somewhere else. And if I hover up here, yep, it's got the selection there now. So that is the completed outside selection for the submarine. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put a mask on this submarine, but not an ordinary mask. I want to put a vector mask on. To do that, if I hold down the control or the command key and I hover over, come down to the little mask icon at the bottom of the layers palette, and I click on there, you can see that it's added a vector mask because it's greyed out. It's not a white or a black mask, it's a greyed out mask, and you can see in there we have the selection of the little submarine. So I want to actually click and select the mask to say that I want to be working on the mask itself. So I select the mask, and I make sure that this path is not active anymore when I do that. You can see there's no anchor points. We don't want to have our anchor points visible on this outside selection, otherwise this next step is not going to work properly. So this is what we need to be seeing here. And what we're going to do is we're going to change our pen tool to our curvature pen tool, and we're going to come up to the top, and we can see it's on path. That's correct. We want to come to this box here, and we want to make sure it's on subtract from shape. So make sure that is checked, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to select our first point, and we're using the curvature pen tool now. So when we make the next point we get a straight line. That's absolutely fine because the next click will correct that. And there we go. We come round and we make our selection and we move on, and we do exactly the same thing on the next point. And I'm just doing this very roughly and quickly. And now we have our windows selected. So you can see we've completed our 3 circles, but you can see that this path here is still active. To stop that being active, then we want to just hit our escape key, and that deactivates that path. If I now right click inside of this area and say make a selection, and I'm not going to feather it, and I'm going to make sure these 2 boxes, ticked by default, so we're going to leave them as they are, and we're going to hit OK. Now we have our selection of the submarine cut out, and if I hit Control or Command and J, and that puts the submarine onto its own layer. So if I, just so you can see clearly what I've done, if I put in a new fill layer, so I come down to the plus icon at the bottom of the layers palette, and I just go to Edit, Fill, and I've got light blue as our foreground colour down here. I'm just going to select Content, Foreground Colour, and hit OK. That has filled our layer with a nice light blue. If I drag that down to below our submarine cutout, you can see that we've done quite a good job of cutting that out. And now it's on its own layer. I can actually take the Move tool, and if I have a new blank document open here, go back to my submarine, choose the submarine layer and choose the Move tool, and I can pick up that submarine and drag it up, hover over my new blank document, drag it down and drop it in, and there we have the cutout of our submarine. And this can be a very good procedure to learn, even if you're a photographer. So say for example you were down in London and you took some photographs of the red telephone boxes. Through the windows of the red telephone boxes you would see the background of your original image. So if you wanted to cut that telephone box out and cut out the windows to transfer it into another image, so you're going to be able to see through the windows into the new image that you're putting it into, this is a good procedure for being able to do that. Okay, thank you for watching.